Okay, welcome to the Connected Pulse. I'm Mike Mintz, and we are here today with Dennis Kennedy from the Kennedy Mile Report. Dennis, how are you?
Hey, Mike, it's great to be here. Pleasure to be part of this series.
All right, excellent. And Dennis, why don't you just start off by telling everybody a little bit about what you do and kind of where you've been? I know you've been in the blogging scene for a while now, so just let us know a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm coming up on my seventh year of blogging in February, which is pretty exciting. It's toward the beginning. I don't really consider myself exactly the first generation. There's some before me, but yeah, 7 years is a long time blogging, and uh, 15 years of having a website as a lawyer.
Wow.
So, been the internet side of legal technology for a long time now. So I practice. I guess I'm a working lawyer now. I'm an in-house counsel at Mastercard Worldwide, based in St. Louis, and then I write the technology column for the ABA Journal. Do the podcast with Tom Mile, the Kennedy Mile Report, and people probably see my writing on technology all over the place these days.
Lawyers seem to be embracing Blackberries and mobile tech, but what about what do you think we're going to see from lawyers in the next few years?
Well, I think it's my focus has always been the internet. I mean, there's a great quote about the internet that we always overestimate the impact of the internet in the short term and underestimate it in the long term. And I
Right.
think we're starting to see some of those long term impacts these days. So I see lawyers moving more to the internet as part of being an integral part of their practice. And that's part of the reason time I wrote the book on collaboration tools and
Right.
technologies. That's big internet focus. And I think you're right that lawyers have always been part of using Blackberries and the focus on email, but I think more aspects of the internet and the idea that the smartphones will turn into a mobile platform that really doesn't replace, but definitely supplements what they do in the desktop and in the office. So that internet aspect is where I really see technology happening over the next few years.
Sure. Now, what advice would you give to an attorney who might be hesitant to jump onto a platform like a social media platform or any of these new tools? What is the best advice you would give to somebody like that?
Well, my advice is always to look at technology as sort of a portfolio. So think of it like an investment portfolio. So you don't have to do everything. You don't even have to get that far into everything. But I think that you want to diversify what you use in technology. Social media is a great example. Um, I don't think a lot of lawyers should be, say, publishing, putting out tweets on Twitter all the time. I don't think it's really the right vehicle for most lawyers.
Mhm.
But to be a consumer of Twitter and to use the Twitter search function to monitor things that are happening in real time is really active. So I don't think lawyers should shake their head no to Twitter, but I think you need to understand there are different aspects of it, and the idea that you're tweeting every 15 minutes doesn't make sense for almost any lawyer.
Right. Now, what one of the things I try to tell lawyers in working with them, through Martindale Hubble Connected or LinkedIn, is that when you're dealing with any of these new technologies, you want to look at what are the tasks you already do, and see do these technologies present an opportunity to maybe cut out the time, the time suck of say email. Have you found any specific strategies of using platforms like the ones I mentioned for for cutting down on email or search or anything like that?
Well, I think email is. I'm lately. I find myself saying more often that email is broken.
Yeah.
It just seems like everybody gets this tremendous volume of email that's hard to deal with, and also email isn't really designed to do a lot of things that uh, we want to do. So collaborating on documents, doing other things is actually quite difficult for email. There are better platforms for that, and so you look at something like a Google Docs
Mhm.
or something like that that's really designed to collaborate on documents. But I think in the social media space, and you use an example like Martindale Connected, so or Facebook or LinkedIn or something like that, where you say, here's an example of where I can identify the people I'm connected to, or
Mhm.
more specifically in my area. Sometimes I can even identify when they're actually available, and I can get a message either directly to a person or to a targeted group where I might actually get an answer, and they're more able to give an answer. So I'm not just firing off an email to
Right.
somebody who's getting 200 or 300 emails a day. I think you're right. You kind of look at what you're doing now, what isn't working for you, and then whether one of these platforms can improve what you're doing. And I think in a certain sense, um, email starts to fall down. You go, well, there are better ways to do this.
Right.
Instant messaging might be a better way to
Yeah.
get in touch with this person who's available. Phone call might be better in this situation.
Right.
So, but I think we are all sort of reacting to. Um, I think the breakdown of email as this, it's not going to go away, obviously, but I think the breakdown of the effectiveness of email for us.
Sure. Yeah, you made some predictions on your Kennedy Mile report. Just tell the viewers a little bit about some of the things you think are in store for this year for lawyers using technology and maybe how they can best adapt to those changes.
Well, I think that I think the economy is still a driving force, and so I think that's going to as people react to the economy, hopefully recovery coming at some point, that people are going to start to think in terms of technology more in a business sense.
Hmm.
So not as nice to have things or I need to have this technology because other people have it, but sort of what actually is the economic driver? Can we show savings? Can we show return on investment? Uh, how does this help? You know, get the word out about us and bring the money in
Right.
simplest terms. And so I think a lot more business focus. Projects will be evaluated in their terms of their economic effect. I also see the movement to platforms, new platforms, the mobile platform, the smartphone. I think the growth of smartphones is probably because of the iPhone and BlackBerry as well, and the app stores over the last year. I think is
Are
a big trend that's continuing.
Yeah, are you a BlackBerry or an iPhone guy or an Android?
Actually, I'm a BlackBerry.
Yeah.
The platform is the cloud computing platform,
Yes.
so the sort of software as a service. And I know that you guys in the Lexus world have offerings there and are looking at that continuously. And I think that there's going to be more openness of lawyers to that. I think there's some concerns. Lawyers really tend to point to the security concerns
Of
with
course.
the cloud computing,
Hmm.
even though their own security in the law firms typically is not that great. And so, but I think there is a big movement um, in general that will filter to the legal profession of the cloud computing, the hosted services. It just makes sense. I mean, you don't have to invest in the infrastructure.
Right.
You can budget your technology on a monthly basis. So I think those are some of the big areas. It'll be interesting to see what happens in electronic discovery this year.
What do you think will be the big changes there?
Well, I think that people are a little bit horrified by the cost
Yeah.
um, of doing electronic discovery as they originally thought they were going to do it. I think people are still surprised at the way lawyers have not moved to electronic discovery. I think as a client, I would be surprised in some ways the number of lawyers who avoid electronic discovery. I mean, it just seems really difficult not to be able to get information you need for a case without doing some kind of electronic discovery today. But I think the judges, out of frustration, largely are going to push lawyers to more of cooperation, collaboration, coming up with reasonable approaches. Um, I think you'll see more processes
Mm.
developed where we say, hey, this is a reasonable process to do an electronic discovery, and that will gradually develop. Also, there's a really interesting trend, I think, and uh, that some of the best lawyers I know in electronic discovery are being pulled out of practicing law and into working in consulting or with other
Oh,
firms
wow.
in the e-discovery area. And there's almost like a brain drain out of law firms. And so I've predicted for a um, long time in technology years, I mean, several years, that probably a few years from now, we're going to see some of the work that's traditionally done by lawyers in electronic discovery basically being done outside of law firms and maybe even defined out of the legal practice as
Interesting.
they're taken on by electronic discovery companies.